Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
February 3, 2020, the Angels in Hell edition. And we start with that story, our headline story from the New York Times, entitled Angels in Hell, the Culture of Misogyny Inside Victoria's Secret. Times investigation found widespread bullying and harassment of employees and models. The 2 most powerful men abused and sexually harassed models for decades. Ed Razik, one of the top executives, is alleged to have subjected repeated models to inappropriate conduct, kissing, trying to get them to sit on his lap, and getting him to touch crotches, or them to touch crotches. This conduct was apparently not only tolerated, but also encouraged within the organization. So it just goes to show that, once again, culture is everything, and the fallout for Victoria's Secrets, which apparently is now up for sale, will continue going forward. Next up, with the alternative news that Donald Trump has been portraying, of course, it probably shouldn't surprise you that he would talk about flushing toilets. He is on a campaign to get toilets to flush more. The problem is they are flushing at more efficient levels than ever due to industry developments based upon regulations which required increased efficiency. And so, once again, not understanding that toilets are actually more efficient, although flushing toilets is probably not surprising to most of the listeners to this podcast that President Trump would focus on. But once again, alternative facts, as with his meteorological references to Alabama during the last hurricane, and now with the coronavirus, the administration downplaying that as well. When the culture fallout continues for Wells Fargo, as the market booms, Wells Fargo financial advisors still struggle. As reported by the Wall Street Journal, the problem is nobody trusts them. Not surprisingly, the bank has not been able to win the trust of key stakeholders, i.e. the customers. Wealth management has yet to turn things around. And although they claim that they have turned things around, the damaged reputation makes it a tough sell. No surprise there. If you read the recent OCC report on Wells Fargo, you certainly have a very good understanding of why that is. But it really goes to show that, once again, it is culture and reputation with your stakeholders, which are the most important thing. And finally, from the Wall Street Journal and the Risk and Compliance Journal and Mingy Sun, Brexit adds sanctions to compliance complexity. The UK's exit on January 31 from the EU could bring significant changes to the country's sanctions policy, which could complicate sanctions, or rather compliance, for multinational organizations. Although Mingy does not believe it will happen right away, during the transition, individuals and companies are still required to comply with the EU sanctions policies until the United Kingdom puts their own sanctions in place. This could be greater sanctions, or it could be lesser sanctions. Nevertheless, it will require another level of complexity to all sanctions. So Brexit will have an impact on companies outside the United Kingdom, such as those who do business in the United States. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that as well. If you're a football fan, I hope your team won the Super Bowl last night. Thanks for listening to the Daily Compliance News. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening.